you should really only lease this Tesla model, and that Tesla model is going to be a Model 3 only. We were fortunate enough to get access to some lease rates for some of the Tesla vehicles out there. And if you didn't know, there is interest on a Tesla lease. And sometimes, most of the time, that interest can be way higher than market. I think in the past for Tesla Model 3s and Model Ys, we've seen interest rates for leasing specifically as high as like 8 to 9%. It gets pretty crazy. And you don't see it anywhere on the monthly calculator page. It's labeled as money factor, and you only see it after you place a deposit, after you do your application, and then you'll actually be able to see it or not. But we actually got a list of all the different money factors that were sent to us. It's actually down below in our deal spreadsheet if you want to take a look at it. It's one of the tabs on that sheet. And actually, there's really only one Model 3 that you should, or one Tesla that I would really recommend leasing at the moment, because we only took a look at Model 3 and Model Y. I know a lot of you are looking at those two models, but now that brings me, I think I should maybe get the Model S and Model X in the near future. But here it is. So here is all the different money factors, which is also known as interest rate. But they put these money factors in these crazy numbers like 0.00247 or 0.00163. And you think like, oh, wow, 1632, that must be really low interest rates or low money factors, whatever it is. It should be nothing, right? Well, actually, if you do the calculation, and quick tip for anyone that it's out there, all you do is you take that money factor number, 0.00247, and times it times 2400. And that gives you the interest rate on the actual one. So Model 3 long range rear-wheel drive is at 0.00247, and that's actually a converted interest rate of 5.28%. And so you might be thinking like, that's pretty high actually, but the interest rate is only on what you are depreciating or driving, which is going to be that 3 years of when you're driving it, or 2 years, whatever it is. And because there's a residual value, so you're really only financing your use, which is the depreciation of that 2 to 3 years. And so that's why some people think leasing could be better, because you're basically just swapping out the vehicle after the 3rd year or the 2nd year, and it's Tesla's problem or whoever else's problem after that. But if you convert all the different interest rates that are out there or money factors, you will find that the Model 3 long range all-wheel drive is actually a relatively okay interest rate. I mean, of course, it's not as low as like 0% or 1.99 or 1.99 on a finance, but it's also not too bad either. I mean, 3.9% is still way lower than a lot of the averages is for the lease. And so certainly that's pretty not bad. I mean, so really you should only be looking for a lease for a Model 3 long range all-wheel drive, because it could be in this situation where if you were to get a long range all-wheel drive, your payment might be more on that vehicle, and it would just make sense to get a, not more than an all-wheel drive, but it just won't make sense like dollar for dollar. And that's why a Model 3 long range all-wheel drive might be your best bet, because it actually has a respectable interest rate, at least lower than all the other ones that are out there. So just quick PSA on this. I mean, if you've got a lease payment or you're about to buy a Tesla Model 3 and or Model Y even, feel free to share your lease payment and how much it's actually going to be. We've seen plenty of like $3K, $5K down at like $500 to $600 a month, which seems to be the average for sure. But looking at this, a Model 3 long range all-wheel drive is your best bet to get the most value for your payment that is out there. And that makes sense, because the all-wheel drive is kind of the vehicle that makes the most sense in terms of the lineup if you look at it from like a outside view or a 50,000 viewpoint, because it is all-wheel drive. It's got the nicer interior and the nicer speakers and everything like that. But definitely some pretty interesting stuff. Let me know what your thoughts on it. Which model are you looking to lease, and what is the interest rate or money factor that you've seen on your contracts if you already lease?